Hey all, and welcome back to Room 66, where every week we will be diving deep into the paranormal planes, exploring what truly goes on with the unexplainable. Today's episode is a compilation of stories of people experiencing paranormal activity around them. You know, the things you see in the corners of your kitchen at 3 a.m. when you're fetching water. So sit back, relax, and enjoy your stay in Room 66. This is the late 80s, early 90s. I was around 6 or 7 years old. I am at home with my sister, who's about 14 or 15 at the time. We grew up in a small Texas town. Everyone knows everybody. We're home alone this particular night, and my folks let my sister babysit me frequently. We always got along due to our age gap. Anyway, it's about 8 p.m. in the winter. Deserts get pretty damn cold. So it is dark and we're in the common room, since it's where the TV was. Watching 60 Minutes or 48 Hours, or Hard Copy or some shit. Those 1-hour news pieces on CBS that chronicle large crimes in depth. Trafficking, murders, kidnapping, and the like. Basically, a gritty Lifetime special. This one was a typical story. Guy next door that was quiet went on a rampage in his next door neighbor's house, mutilating them and kidnapping their younger daughter. Well, the thing about our house's common room is the door leading to the backyard was a large glass door on a wall of floor-to-ceiling windows. Nothing but blackness beyond it unless you have the backlight on, and we didn't. The front door is on the other side of the room with a small entryway. This is a solid door, so you cannot see what is beyond it, with a glass storm door on the other side of it. About 45 minutes into the show, they're talking about the ongoing manhunt for this crazy guy, and then bam, 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 the front door bangs like crazy. We jump up and scream like banshees. Dead silence now. The only lights on in the house are the kitchen light down the hall from the common room we were in, and the light from the TV. We start thinking something on the porch. We head to some planters and a rocking chair out there, had simply blown against the door. This was West Texas. Crazy strong winds out that way. Well, a minute or two of silence and us holding each other, post-adrenaline overdose passes. Just when we're about to declare that everything is safe, we hear the storm door on the outside of the front door close. Fuck. Someone had to have opened that door to be able to bang the front door like that. Shit. We're both frozen in the middle of the room, on the floor where we'd been watching TV. My sister crawls over to the TV and it turns off. It was an old TV, so you had to turn on that middle dial to switch it off, which it does with a mildly loud thunk. Now, it is just us in a room, dimly lit by the kitchen light down the hall. I don't remember how much time passed, with me frozen and my sister still crouched by the now off TV. But we kept making eye contact, then looking at the front door. I remember this part vividly. I am on my knees, sitting on my feet, and I turn around to look at the back wall of windows and the glass door. We hear, and I see the back doorknob turn. It was locked on the knob, but not the deadbolt. It rattles slightly, as if somebody is gently trying the handle. Neither of us make a sound, just held our breath. Then, bam, 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 bam. Loud as hell. Someone is trying to force the door open, just jerking it back and forth. The whole wall of windows is vibrating violently, and I can see with each jerk of the door how my slight reflection gets fuzzy, then clear, then fuzzy. My sister flips her shit and screams bloody murder. I'm still frozen on the floor, and she gets up and basically drags me into her bedroom, slams the door, throws her mattress and anything she can in front of her door. Thankfully, she had remembered the phone, one of those ungodly heavy beige plastic long metal antenna portable phones. We still had to direct dial the sheriff, and in her panic didn't remember the number. She just hit redial on the phone. It was one of her friends, and she tells them in broken gasps that someone is trying to get into our house and they need to get there right now. I'm curled up on the floor and can't stop shaking. We don't hear anything else until we see the headlights of my sister's friend and her parents driving up to the house. We never did find out who was at the door, or why. There were no signs of anything happening, but a couple of scuff marks on the bottom of the back door that we couldn't remember if they were there beforehand or not. Nothing like that has happened to me or her since, but for damn sure, we never forgot to lock a door after that. My mother-in-law was a very funny and cool woman. She and my wife were really close, and sadly, she passed away when our son was about 4 months old. Flash forward a few years. We live in an old 1930s era craftsman house in Pasadena, California. Our son is about 3 at the time. I was giving him a bath one night, and he starts looking over my shoulder. Not at random stuff, but at something. A moment passes, and he asks me why Grandma calls Mommy a funny name. A long pause, and I asked him what he meant, thinking he was talking about my mom. Then he says, why does Grandma call Mommy blank? My mother-in-law's nickname for my wife. I was really set back by this. My wife and I never used the nickname. It was just what her mom called her since she was a baby. I asked him where he heard that. His reply was, the farmer told me. I asked him who the farmer was, and he replied, his friend. I tell my wife this story later, and she's of course reduced to tears over the whole nickname thing. We both know that there's no way for him to know this, and we just kind of marvel at it. Flash forward to the next weekend, and my son is playing in his room. My wife is at work, and I'm home. I hear him start talking, and he's having a conversation. He says things like yes, no, I don't know that. Then some laughing. I go into his room and ask him what he's doing, and he says he's playing. I ask him with who, and he says the farmer. At this point, I'm already thinking about the fucking Exorcist movie and Captain Howdy. It's a little unsettling, and I ask him where the farmer is. He says he left when I came in. What the hell? So my wife gets home and I tell her, and now she is just as weirded out as I am. We have no idea what to do, and figure if it happens again, we'll do something. A few days later, in the middle of the night, we both overhear our son saying the following. Grandma says you and I can't be friends anymore. My wife and I go check on him, both of us a little freaked. He's just sitting up in bed. I ask if he's okay, and he says yeah. Grandma says I can't play with the farmer anymore. He's never once mentioned the farmer again. Not ever. He's 13 now, and doesn't remember any of it. We do, though. I used to live way out in the country. Not desolate, but a few neighborhoods and lots of land. It was summertime, so for me, that meant very late nights on the internet. Our only computer was in the guest bedroom on the opposite side of the house from my room. The house is pretty wide, so I had to pass through 3 different rooms if I wanted to use the internet. So it's about 2 a.m., and I'm on the internet talking with some friends or something. Anyway, some situation comes up where I need to get something from my room, so I exit the guest bedroom. I walk through the laundry room, tiptoe quietly through the kitchen past my parents' bedroom because the floor creaks, and enter the living room. I'm not 6 feet from my bedroom door when I hear this blood-curdling shriek. My eyes are almost tearing up from even thinking about it, coming from right behind my left ear, the side of that the dining room table was currently on. As in, there's no space for anyone to stand there and scream in my frickin' ear. I sprinted to my room, slammed the door behind me, grabbed whatever I came for, and sat on the corner of my bed. The next morning, I asked my parents if my mother woke up shrieking that night, and they both just shook their heads no. That was my first and only strange experience in that house. The funny thing is that after a while of sitting on my bed, I eventually went back to the computer to tell my friends what just happened. When I was a kid, the thing I hated to do the most was take my clothes downstairs to the basement and place them in a big pile next to the laundry machine so that my mom could wash them. That side of the basement was not finished, and it freaking terrified me. I had so many nightmares about that place, like crazy reoccurring nightmares, that I would realize when they were happening, but I was unable to escape them. One of the nightmares was that I would be up and around the house with no one else at home, and then I would become aware that I was approaching the time. I don't know what time it was, but I could feel it in my bones that bad things were about to happen. So I would get under the kitchen table. The door to the basement was in the kitchen, and then the basement door would open and I could see the legs of some man. I never knew who it was, and I never saw his face, but I knew that if this creature caught me out in the open, it would do terrible things to me. The worst thing was the thought that it knew that I was under the table, but it enjoyed the fact that I was so afraid, hiding under there trying not to be seen or heard. Sometimes, either at the end of the unrelated dream or on its own, I'd be walking down the stairs into the basement. When I stepped off the last step, I was plunged into total darkness, and something would grab me. I can't explain the terror this produced in me, and the fact that I knew at the top of the stairs what was about to happen, and I just couldn't stop walking. There were other crazy dreams like that, all taking place in the basement or around the basement. I hated that basement. One day, when I had to take my laundry down, I was home alone except for my dog, so I decided it'll be better to have her down there with me than to have to go by myself. I grab my laundry, call the dog, and head down the stairs. It's daylight. The light is streaming down the stairs into the basement through these small slit windows, and nothing is all terrifying. I saunter over the machine, casually toss my clothes into the pile, and start to make my way back up the stairs. Previous boldness aside, I always run up the stairs because I hate the basement. I was a scrawny kid, so I could barely hear my feet tapping up the stairs. Suddenly, all I can hear is this insane thudding and scrambling coming up the stairs behind me. My brain almost literally shut down. I screamed with terror. I felt my heart pounding in my chest, and I couldn't even continue moving up the stairs. I simply fell into the stairs and curled into a ball. Can you even imagine growing up and being told monsters aren't real, and then facing the moment where your worst nightmare is about to murder you in your own home? I just shut my eyes as tight as I could and waited to die. Then my dog started to lick my face, excited to be playing a fun new game called Race You Up the Stairs. I have a few paranormal events that happened all throughout my life. Most of them are pretty tame, but there's one that got to me and it still sticks with me today. About 4 years ago, I was ending my freshman year at college. I had lived in the dorms with a kick-ass roommate and pretty much had a great experience altogether. Towards the end of my last semester, something seemed different in my hall of the dorms. We were all still our lively selves, but just walking into the dorms would give you this massive feeling of dread. We all wrote it off as stress of finals approaching, but it just felt off. Well, one night after studying, I decided to hit the shower so I can wake up and make my way to class in a few hours. Before I keep going, I should go ahead and set the layout of our hallway in the bathroom. Our hall was one of many halls on a single floor. Each hall had 4 rooms that accommodated 2 people each, or a single room for the RAs. The entrance to the halls were massive steel doors with a small window located at one end, and across from it was the bathroom. It seriously felt like a prison block rather than the living quarter for a college student. As for the bathroom itself, when you walked in, you were immediately met with 2 sets of sinks, 2 sinks aside, on your left and right, with massive mirrors facing each other and creating that infinite loop of mirrors. Then, past that, you had your 2 urinals and a toilet stall on your left, and 2 showers on your right. When facing the left set of sinks, you can clearly see into the showers from the mirror. If the door is open, and in the right set of sinks, you can see the reflection of the shower. The door of the bathroom was identical to the entrance of the hall, a massive steel frame with a small window that didn't allow for much of a view, with good reason. The door was propped open with a giant wooden wedge that couldn't be moved unless you were really trying to close that door. So back to the story, I'm all alone in the bathroom gearing up to go to shower. I throw my change of clothes on the right side of the sink so that way I can reach around to the stall and grab them. Once I set my stuff down, I happen to look up to the mirror, and I can see in the distance something almost shimmering inside of the shower stall. As I look, I notice it slowly getting closer, like it's jumping from the furthermost layer to the next layer, closer. I'm kind of unsettled, but I don't think much of it other than me coming down off of a massive Red Bull, Adderall, and caffeine kick. But it starts transitioning faster, and it gets closer, and I can start making out details, but nothing vivid or striking. It's just a dark mass that looks like it's covered in hair. At this point, I'm freaking out hardcore since this thing is getting closer in the mirror and I'm pretty much frozen to this one spot. It gets to the 4th layer, and I get the closest look at this thing I'll ever get, and I regret every minute of it. It wasn't hair, but some kind of long, flowing veil. You could see through it partially, but from the torso down, it was just solid black. And the face, I can't describe it. It was clearly human, but at the same time, it was so far removed. There were eyes. They were black, but definitely glowing somehow. I only saw this for maybe a second at the most, but it's burned into my mind forever. Then, the lights cut out, and I heard the door slam. It's pitch black in the bathroom, so I can't see this thing anymore. I go to open the door, but it won't budge. And then, this intense smell of blood hits me out of nowhere, and that's all I remember. I woke up later in the hospital. From what my RA claims was that he was on his way to use the bathroom sometime after this happened, where he found me in the shower stall with my shirt covered in blood from a massive nosebleed. He tried asking me what happened, and according to him, all I could respond was, "It saw me," and I started freaking out. So he called an ambulance and they got me to the hospital. All while I am apparently freaking out, they sedate me to get me to calm down. I'm coming to around this time and my parents show up. Worried sick, of course. I asked them what happened, and according to the doctors, they believe I had a seizure. However, they ran a CAT scan soon after, and I was cooperative enough to do so and found no signs of any seizure occurring. Not to mention epilepsy doesn't run in my family at all. And having taken Adderall countless times in the past, and since then, I've never had similar side effects, neither hallucinations or potential seizures. To this day, I still can't bring myself to look into a mirror for more than a minute, and just being stuck in a room with one for an extended period would just cause me to break down. I've been to therapy going on 3 years because of this, and I've talked to countless religious leaders who, besides giving me the general, "well, you should turn to God in times like these" talks, don't recognize that kind of pattern as anything demonic or evil. And the strangest thing is that before the incident, there were no actual claims of activity in those dorms. And since I left, there hasn't been any either. It was just that one isolated incident. Well, that's all the time we have left for tonight. If you enjoyed your stay with us at Room 66, please subscribe to stay longer, and don't forget to hit that like button and turn on the notification bell to get notifications every time we post a video.